It's Final Battle season. And I just want to wish you guys, Tommy, Dave, and your crew, and Bully, and everybody, happy holidays. And Tommy, it's not spoken about enough. Congratulations with the current success. They talk about WWE being hot. TNA is pretty hot also.
Well,
and I just wanted to say that. And here we are. And by the way, my first Hammerstein wrestling show was ECW in 2001. I was an ECW regular. I was in, I think, section C. From the hard camera, I was to the left on the TV. I had season tickets. That's where I met Gabe, Doug, and the other guy. So, real quick, Ring of Honor history, boys and girls. I did not start Ring of Honor. It was started by Gabe Sapolsky, Doug Gentry, and this other guy that had the video company. And I was at the first year of shows. I wanted to get involved. They didn't need me. Then they came to me because they needed money. And there was a little kerfluffle in 2003, 4. I had no intention of wanting to be the full-time owner. And I wound up with the company, which I owned until 2011. I bled money the whole time. My ego wouldn't let it go. I knew we had a good thing, though. And thank God for Jim Cornette turning me on to Gary Juster, who turned me on to Joe Koff. And Joe Koff bought it, and he kept me as the ambassador. That was my favorite time. I used to go to the shows, paid for my way there, paid for my room. I got petted on the head like your dog at Christmas, and a little food being shoved under, and I could just come and go. And when it was over, I could leave. So, and which also led to getting to do the Garden. And then Joe Koff, God rest his soul, sold it to Tony Khan, and here we are.
Well, I mean, there's a lot.
I got to say, so I was the ambassador. I think I might be the only ambassador ever in not just wrestling, but in ambassadorial duties to be defrocked.
I love it. I love it, Carrie. And for those who don't see, and we'll try to post a picture on social media, the room that you're doing this interview in, just the history and the memorabilia that hang on your walls all over the place, all these, old school posters. And if you follow Carrie on social media, you're always posting those posters as well. And you were kind enough to send me, which I have here in my office, the Ring of Honor New Japan show at Madison Square Garden. That poster means a lot, and is a show that should be talked about more. But Carrie, like when I think of Ring of Honor, I always think of you. And the one word that you didn't use when describing your history with Ring of Honor is the fact that you saved Ring of Honor. I don't know if people really understand that around that 2003 period, it seemed like Ring of Honor was going to be completely gone, blacklisted, gone forever. You saved that company. We wouldn't be talking about Final Battle coming up on Friday at the Hammerstein Ballroom if it wasn't for you. So I want to give you your flowers because you saved Ring of Honor during a very
when that happened, it took like 12 months to 18 months for the stink to blow away. But we'll talk about rosier things. Final Battle started in 2002 with the aforementioned people, and it was a yearly tradition. But our first Final Battle at the Hammerstein or the Manhattan Center, they're one and the same in my mind, was 2006 with Bryan Danielson and Homicide. And they continued over the years. I don't want to bore people with a list. 2007 was the Briscoes against Jimmy Jacobs and Tyler Black. 2008, Bryan and Takeshi Morishima. I know, Dave, that you were at quite a few of these.
I was almost at every one. I mean, I was a diehard Ring of Honor fan. So the Hammerstein Ballroom to me is a very special place.
Absolutely. And it continued through the Sinclair regime. Adam Cole, Elgin, Briscoe, Jay Briscoe and Adam Cole, A Fight Without Honor. And the last time Final Battle was at the Hammerstein was 2018, which was an interesting one because that's when the Bucks, Cody, Daniels, and so on and so forth were leaving, and they left. MSG had been booked, but that was the last Ring of Honor at the Hammerstein.
And I always remember. Go ahead. Sorry. No, I always remember when anybody ever won the championship, and I think it was 2017 at the Hammerstein when Kyle O'Reilly beat Adam Cole for the Ring of Honor championship, which was a bloody battle. You handing that championship title to Kyle O'Reilly. Like, you were always the guy that would hand whenever somebody won the championship. You were kind of like what we see with Triple H now with the picture with the finger point. You always stood in the middle of the ring handing that Ring of Honor championship to the new title holder. It
cost me a lot of money to get that privilege, but yeah, there were some good times, and the payoff for me was getting to do the Garden. The same building I saw Pedro Morales and Freddie Blassie when my father took me, because they had that blue law. Tommy knows about this. Dave knows about this. You had to be 14 years old. They didn't enforce it at Sunnyside Gardens. My uncle got me tickets like in 1967, and we went. But the Garden, they sort of enforced it. And but my dad, who couldn't stand wrestling, he loved the Yankees, he loved the Knicks. He took me. It was on my birthday, November 15th, 1971. Freddie Blassie, Pedro Morales. It was wonderful.
That's amazing.
And then for me to get the hustle tickets, during my long, we want to talk about Final Battle here, but I hustled tickets in front of the Garden for years. It wasn't a good time in my life. I thought it was. I put half a Peru in my nose. And then to be the idea, and the concerts I saw, I graduated high school in 74, and we went to everything. We went to Black Sabbath. We went to Elton John. We went to Led Zeppelin. We went to Billy Joel. We went to the Grateful Dead. We went to Jethro Tull. And we went to everything. So the Garden was a special place, and the Hammerstein's a special place.
And the people you met too, because one of your greatest stories of all time is you and John Belushi. But we're having
another time.
Yeah, we'll have to get into that another time. But let's get into Final Battle. So Final Battle coming up on Friday. Now, Tommy, the one thing I have to give a lot of credit to for Tony Khan is the music. He does a great job of getting the entrance music for every wrestler that comes down, from, Europe. Final Countdown for Bryan Danielson, Kansas for the Young Bucks, what we saw with Seek and Destroy for Sting. So, Carrie, let me ask you this. I'm going to ask you this. Is Tony Khan going to get the rights for Locomotive Breath when you come down the entrance ramp on Friday at the Hammerstein Ballroom?
I don't know, because nobody has invited me.
Wow.
I spoke to Jay Lethal, who's wrestling, and Bobby Cruz. He stayed with me in Florida for a few days. And Bobby was, I'll see you at the Hammerstein. I go, I don't know. And Lethal, I spoke to the other day, and I don't want to say the comment he said to me. In other words, don't worry about it, but he didn't say it in those terms. But he got it. But no one has reached out to me. Should I be reached out to? I don't know. I mean, I don't want to be here like a crybaby or an egomaniac, but if it wasn't for me, if it wasn't for those guys starting Ring of Honor, if it wasn't for me pissing away money, bleeding fucking money, and if it wasn't for Joe Koff, Ring of Honor would not be having, the name Ring of Honor would not be having a show at the Hammerstein. So it would have been nice to be invited, but it's cool. I will stay here on that nice Brown, Lazy Boy, and I'll watch whatever I watch on TV. It is disappointing though.
I mean, Carrie, it is disappointing. And just because like what we're seeing now, we just had Saturday night's main event at the Nassau Coliseum. And with Saturday night's main event, Nassau Coliseum, the first venue that Saturday night's main event was ever in, seeing Jesse Ventura on commentary, seeing Greg the Hammer Valentine, seeing Tito Santana, seeing a lot of those great and Carrie, I'm not speaking as host for Busted Open. I'm speaking as a Ring of Honor diehard fan who, man, for me, I really believe when it comes to Ring of Honor, I know it saved my fandom, and I know it saved a lot of people's fandom because that filled that void of WCW and ECW going away. Ring of Honor filled that void for me. So when I think of Cary Silkin and I think of like a Homicide and a Bryan Danielson, I think of a lot of these Ring of Honor legends. Man, those names are near and dear to my heart. And, and you mentioned his name twice now, and I got to mention it as well, Joe Koff. We did a bit of a tribute for Joe Koff here, after Joe Koff passed away. Joe Koff came on this show, and he came on not to talk about his illness, but just to talk about wrestling and being a fan and what he was able to accomplish.
He was a huge fan of Busted Open. He listened every day. I know that for a fact.
Yeah. So I as a fan, I really hope on Friday we get some acknowledgement of Joe Koff and some acknowledgement of you, Carrie, because I think that's important because in pro wrestling, nostalgia means so much. You cannot forget about the people and especially if you're going to be doing a final battle, which is the biggest pay-per-view, the biggest event of the year for Ring of Honor, and you're coming back to the Hammerstein Ballroom. Carrie, you're the guy who got Ring of Honor in the Hammerstein Ballroom. The people that got you there need to be acknowledged and need to be recognized.
I watched the WWE main event Saturday night. I loved it. It was nice and tight and not, they didn't feed you hot dogs before the dinner. They recognized history. I used to recognize history during my reign of Ring of Honor. It wasn't a final battle, but we had Bruno at the Hammerstein in 2006. Gabe thought it would be a bomb. Our fans are too young. I know it was your childhood hero. It wasn't a bomb. Ring of Honor over the years, not just at the Hammerstein, we brought in Dusty Rhodes. We brought in Bobby Heenan. We brought in Midnight Express. We bring in Percy Pringle, Bill Watts, to recognize history. And the main event, even though they were just waving, like it was a parade, it was so cool to see Coco Beware, Greg Valentine, Jimmy Hart. It's important to know what came before you, but it is what it is. It's what have you done for me lately? And I don't want to be on a pity pot here, but I want to point something out if I have the time.
You have the platform.
And I'd like to hear from Tommy too. On this show, it's Tony's show. He's a nice guy. I've met him. He's a nice guy. It's his show. He can do whatever the hell he wants. Lethal being on the show, there's at least a modicum. Is that a word? A modicum of Ring of Honor history. Vincent and Dutch are Ring of Honor guys. But I'm not looking at the card, and maybe I'm making a mistake. But when you have Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, Samoa Joe, Nigel McGuinness, Matt Taven, Mark Briscoe, Colt Cabana, Mike Bennett, not to mention Jerry Lynn in the back, Christopher Daniels in the back, Sanjay Dutt in the back, even Bully, who had 3 or 4 years in ROH. I would have, forget about me, I would have some of these guys. What do you guys think?
Tommy, what do you think?
You forgot to mention the Young Bucks.
Yes.
Young Bucks, Bryan Danielson. I mean,
Yes, and Nigel.
What was so successful about the one night stand was Rob Van Dam literally going to Vince and saying, all these people work here and they can still wrestle. What about just a one night deal? And the financial numbers that pay-per-view did is proof of that. And then going forward in 2006, I'll say his name because the guy's a genius, Dusty Rhodes. He was like, you are the originals, and versus a new breed. And it got us to this interesting story of the old guard fighting the new guard. And that's literally every sport. That's the old vet and the young up-and-coming player. And, hey, I was able to get a WrestleMania out of it. I was able to get a large payday out of it. But also the fans were invested in it because we all worked our asses off to get to that. So, yes, there is definitely the use. But as we always say, wrestling is subjective, as well as for some people that may not have value, or I'm just trying to go in this direction. And that's, what it is. If it's a financial hit, then it works. If it's a financial not hit, it didn't work. I don't think we'll ever hear those numbers, but that's really the end all be all for every wrestling
I'm
company.
talking about the people that are in AEW's pocket that can be put on the show, and not Cary Silkin, the wrestlers that give it some old school feel. That's what Dave
even put in as one night stand or like the whole retro vibe of what Ring of Honor was or should be, and bringing in or having like dream matches. Don't even get me started with Bryan Danielson and Nigel McGuinness, because
oh my God! Imagine if you
forever.
Imagine if let me just jump in really quick, Tommy, because as Cary Silkin should be sitting at ringside. He should be acknowledged. There should be a banner underneath him. Cary Silkin, like the man should be there. He should be acknowledged. He should come out. They should have fucking Locomotive Breath playing as he comes down and be acknowledged by that Hammerstein crowd. Because if it wasn't for him, you wouldn't even be thinking of Ring of Honor and Hammerstein Ballroom in the same sentence. But let's put Cary aside for a second, and I don't mean that disrespectfully, because I could go on all fucking show about Cary Silkin and how he needs to be represented and respected. And I think he's being completely disrespected by nobody even reaching out to him and inviting him, giving him a fucking ticket, for God's sakes. I mean, don't even get me started. I mean, that's fucking disrespect. That's fucking bullshit. But now you're talking about the card itself. We just saw with NXT, Bully being back and Little Guido being back and all these former, Francine and all these former ECW legends that were at the ECW arena. Why did you do that? Because you're at the ECW arena in Philadelphia. You have to acknowledge the old school ECW. Saturday night's main event. You're in Nassau Coliseum. The first ever Saturday night's main event was at the Nassau Coliseum. How do you not represent what pro wrestling was in the WWF at that time? That's why you have Coco Beware and Greg Valentine and Jimmy Hart and Tito Santana and Jesse Ventura. You do this entire montage before the show even starts, hearing Gene Okerlund's voice. Now we're at Ring of Honor. Final Battle. Hammerstein Ballroom. You have Cary just listed it, all these names that were a part of Ring of Honor that are now part of AEW. And no disrespect, please, this is not a disrespect, because I love these wrestlers. Red Velvet, Layla Hirsch does not scream Ring of Honor. Athena Billy Starks does not scream Ring of Honor. Lee Moriarty does not scream Ring of Honor. Brian Cage, Willie Mack, Commander, Mark Davis, A.R. Fox, Blake Christian does not scream Ring of Honor. As much as I love them, Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara do not scream Ring of Honor. Chris Jericho's your champion. He needs to be represented, and Chris Jericho's a legend. Matt Cardona, we just had him on the air. Love Matt Cardona. Chris Jericho and Matt Cardona, the main event, does not scream Ring of Honor. Now, do some of those matches scream the new era of Ring of Honor? Absolutely.
Yes.
If Final Battle was being held in Duluth, if this was your card, I wouldn't have a problem with it. The fact that you're having it at the Hammerstein Ballroom, Tommy, you know how you sell out that building which isn't sold out yet? You know how you sell it out? You know how you sell that out? By having the stars that were once a part of Ring of Honor being a part of this show. Imagine, for God's sakes, imagine if you waited to have not. Imagine if your fucking main event was Nigel McGuinness versus Bryan Danielson. That show would have sold out in a fucking hour. In an hour, you would have sold out that building for Nigel McGuinness and Bryan Danielson. Imagine if it was Adam Cole versus Mark Briscoe. One of my all-time favorite feuds was Adam Cole versus Briscoe for that Ring of Honor championship. And now you're having Mark Briscoe filling the shoes of his brother who passed to go up against Adam Cole. My God, what a match that would be in the Hammerstein Ballroom. Oh, my God. Oh, fucking A, man. It's not rocket science, for God's sakes.
Well, I'm friendly with Chris Jericho.
Dear Heavenly Father, up in heaven.
Let him go.
I mean, how do you not see what's right in your fucking face?
Jericho won the Ring of Honor belt. The last time I made an appearance at AEW was at Arthur Ashe Tennis Stadium 2 years ago. It was Jericho against Claudio. I texted him and I said, hey, that would be a nice thing to have old Cary Silkin there at ringside. So they did. But
Claudio!
Right.
Claudio, for God's sakes! Hey,
And
Carrie, hold on.
What about Homicide?
Homicide!
Amazing Red. These guys are active. Homicide is a 2-time fucking Ring of Honor champion.
All right, Carrie, Bully called in. Do you mind if Bully jumps in on a conversation quick?
Oh, fine.
Bully, how are you? Good morning.
So I could not agree more with everything that is being said right now. From Carrie mentioning all the Ring of Honor talent that was born and bred in Ring of Honor, who now work for Tony and AEW, to Tommy's point about One Night Stand, to Dave, you going on one of the most legitimate rants I've ever heard you go on, because I can actually see you pulling your hair out, because you're right. It's right there in front of you. How can you miss it? When Vince McMahon decided to bring back ECW for one night, he was smart enough to know that he didn't know the first thing about ECW, thus leaving the booking of the entire show to Tommy and Paul. And I'm just going to say Tommy and Paul. I know there's a little bit of a power struggle who actually did it, but I'll give them both credit for putting on a phenomenal show. Carrie is still around. The amount of goodwill that you would garner with the Ring of Honor fan base. Why did you buy Ring of Honor? There's a reason, okay? Give the Ring of Honor fans what they want, okay? I personally put Cary Silkin in one of my matches as a throwback nod to Ring of Honor. This is an opportunity for Tony and AEW to give that One Night Stand feel by giving a throwback nod to Cary and allowing him to be either part of the show or to book the show or to give it that old Ring of Honor feel. I just wanted to call in and say hello and say I agree with everything I am hearing, because this is the way it shoot be done. And Dave, one final point.
Yeah, go ahead.
Imagine. Remember how mad you were about them hot-shotting through so many things that had real tangible stories behind it. Imagine if Danielson and McGuinness was held off on until this night. Danielson and McGuinness didn't mean dick in Arthur Ashe. It would have meant everything in the Hammerstein.
And Bully, and Bully, I know I'm speaking for you here. This is no we just had Matt Cardone on. He's super excited. He was there for One Night Stand. This is a great opportunity. Chris Jericho's a legend. He's your Ring of Honor champion. We're going to have Chris Jericho on the show tomorrow. I'm super excited about it. This is no disrespect to anybody that's on this show. But if you really want to make a mark, Bully, if you want people to remember this show forever, you take the people that are on your roster that were a part of it. It just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Dave,
thanks.
I completely agree. That's it. I'm not going to take up anybody else's time, but I'm just saying everything that is being said today, I agree with. I hope the message gets out there to the right ears so the right adjustments can be made. But everything that Cary said, everything that Tommy said, everything that you're saying, Dave, co-sign 100%. Give Ring of Honor fans the Ring of Honor that they knew and they loved. Have a good day, guys. Bye.
All right, bye, Bully. Thanks. And Tommy, and Tommy, think of this, Tommy and Cary. Like Ring of Honor, the brand, it's there. It's on Honor Club. You're trying to get people's attention about Ring of Honor. Imagine if you put on a show like the ones that we're talking about on Friday, how hot Ring of Honor would be. That's just going to be good for the brand and good because it's not like, here's the thing, Tommy and Cary. It's not like we're asking them to bring out people that aren't part of Ring of Honor anymore or part of AEW. These people that we're mentioning are currently with AEW. It's not like oh shit, we got to call the WWE or oh shit, we got to call Tommy with TNA and ask for permission to bring these. They're part of your fucking company. They work for you. They work for you. They're there. And they're going to be sitting watching it at home. Oh, for God's sake, my God, fucking A. Fucking A. Oh, God, help me.
I didn't want to give you a stroke.
Oh, dear fucking God. And it's he's ruined Christmas. He's ruined fucking Christmas.
Well, he needs to go to church for all these swearing and stuff.
Oh, my God, I got to go to a knee. Oh, Cary, you did this to me.
Yeah, I know. But it's like with all those names we mentioned, I'll just pick 4 names. Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, Mark Briscoe, and Colt Cabana. All right? Bring them out. Let them do something. Give it there would have been a sense of authenticity. Whatever. But look, it's not my company. It wasn't my company, but there's a right way to do things, and I don't think it's unfair for me to say that. And if I get criticized for saying this, oh well. I mean, I got to be true to myself. Everyone has
I got
to
your
be,
back, Cary.
Well, I know you do, but I'm saying you got to be true to yourself. So,
well, Cary, with all this being said, let me just tell you something from something that I just experienced. Because everything that they said about you was the same thing they had said about me. I wish people were going crazy about it when it happened, and then I wish it didn't because it would have made me angry and bitter. When NXT came to ECW Arena,
why weren't you there?
No call, no nothing. And
how'd you feel?
I was upset about it until the show aired, and then I had to do Busted Open right after it, and I was just like, you know what? Same thing you just said. It wasn't my decision, my company, nothing I could do about it. And I actually enjoyed the show. And I literally said it will not affect me the next day or the moment. And it didn't. It really and truly didn't. So hopefully you could get that same feeling.
Yeah. Well, thanks to you guys, help. This is like therapeutic.
Yeah.
But
I think talking
and
about
I'm
it
being
helped.
serious. I mean, I don't have to do me a fucking favor. I don't got to schlep into New York. Right, Dave?
Yeah, the traffic's going to be a bitch.
I don't have to schlep into New York City. I don't have to stand around the Hammerstein for 8 hours. God knows how long the show will be. And yes, I would have loved to. here's the thing.
Well, if it was the shows like you used to put on, it would be there for 7 hours.
except for Russell and Jericho, who I'm a little friendly with, and Vinny and Dutch. None of my other friends will be there. I mean, I know a few of the other guys, so it's okay. If this is on YouTube, there's a nice chair in the back. It's a lazy boy. I'm sure you two old guys got one too, your favorite chair to watch TV and blah, blah, blah. So I'll be more than comfortable. I hope that, I'm sure the show will sell out eventually, and it'll probably be okay, but I don't think I'm going to watch it.